Behind the dazzling smiles on the red carpets of the 1960s to the 1990s, many legendary British actresses hid a deeply painful reality. The blinding flashbulbs often concealed tragic marriages where the men they loved quietly drained their wealth and crushed their spirits behind closed doors. These brilliant women gave everything to the screen, only to return home to shadows. Which of these heart-wrenching stories will shock you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and do not forget to subscribe to our channel to uncover more hidden secrets. Lynn Redgrave. For a member of the most prestigious theatrical dynasty in Britain, the stage always seemed like the safest place in the world. This celebrated performer enchanted audiences throughout the 1960s with her incredible talent and radiant vulnerability. However, her greatest tragedy did not unfold in a dramatic play, but within the walls of her own home. When she met a charismatic but ultimately unsuccessful fellow performer, she believed she had found a lifelong partner and a genuine equal. Instead of supporting her blossoming career, this man quickly realized that his easiest path to success was simply to attach himself to her rising star. He abandoned his own acting ambitions and firmly installed himself as her personal manager. Under the guise of protecting her interests, he slowly began to take complete control over every single aspect of her professional life. She worked tirelessly on film sets and stages across the globe, while he comfortably enjoyed the immense privileges. The financial imbalance was only the beginning of a deeply troubling dynamic behind closed doors. He systematically chipped away at her self-confidence, offering constant criticism disguised as professional advice. By convincing her that she was entirely dependent on his guidance, he ensured that she would never question his authority. The brilliant woman who captivated millions of viewers was reduced to seeking basic approval from a man who had entirely built his own comfortable life upon her name. For over 3 decades, she maintained the illusion of a perfect partnership while carrying the entire financial burden of their lavish lifestyle. He managed all of her earnings, making dubious decisions and funneling her hard-earned wealth into his own personal comforts. Friends and colleagues often noticed how exhausted she looked, continuously taking on new roles to keep their finances afloat. Meanwhile, her supposed protector lived like a king, offering nothing but demands and silent resentment in return. The ultimate humiliation arrived when a completely devastating family secret was finally brought into the light. The man who had controlled her life and spent her fortune had secretly started a second family with their own personal assistant, practically building another life right under her trusting nose. This profound emotional betrayal destroyed the fragile world she had worked so desperately to maintain. The heartbreaking discovery forced her to open her eyes to the dark reality of her marriage. Breaking free from his suffocating grip in the late 1990s took an extraordinary amount of courage and profound emotional strength. Despite being left financially depleted and spiritually scarred by a man who had consumed her very best years, she absolutely refused to let him dictate her legacy. She returned to her theatrical craft with a renewed sense of purpose and eventually found the peace she had been denied for far too long. He simply faded into absolute and deserved obscurity. Joan Collins, when a glamorous icon of the 1980s television screens found herself swept off her feet by a charismatic former singer, the world watched in awe. This particular legendary brunette had already weathered her fair share of romantic storms, but she genuinely believed she had finally discovered her safe haven. Little did she know, the dashing younger man whispering sweet promises into her ear was not searching for a soulmate. He was looking for an exceptionally wealthy patron to fund his opulent fantasies. They exchanged their vows in the middle of the 1980s, precisely when her television career was reaching unimaginable heights of global fame. Almost immediately, the charming facade began to crumble, revealing a deeply calculated opportunist beneath the surface. He swiftly maneuvered his way into the role of her primary manager, effectively seizing control of her highly lucrative contracts. While she spent exhausting hours filming under hot studio lights, he simply spent her vast earnings. His manipulation was masterfully subtle at first, gradually isolating her from trusted friends and long-standing professional advisors. He convinced this worldly and fiercely intelligent woman that only he truly had her best interests at heart. Once he secured his grip on her affairs, the emotional belittling commenced. He would make cruel remarks about her appearance and age, carefully designed to shatter her legendary self-assurance. He fed on her insecurities to maintain his absolute dominance. The sheer scale of his financial extravagance was breathtaking. He demanded outrageous monthly salaries simply for acting as her representative, while simultaneously expecting her to pay for every single aspect of their extravagant lifestyle. From luxury vehicles to bespoke designer wardrobes, his insatiable appetite for the finer things in life was entirely funded by her relentless hard work. He was effectively a highly paid employee who also happened to share her marital bed and her grand mansion. The breaking point arrived just over a year into their disastrous union, when she finally recognized the horrifying extent of his financial drain and emotional toxicity. However, asking for a separation unleashed his true vindictive nature. He transformed the dissolution of their marriage into an absolute media circus, demanding a staggering portion of her personal fortune. He even staged dramatic protests outside their former shared home, attempting to publicly humiliate the woman who had given him everything. Ultimately, his greedy pursuit of her wealth was thwarted by a robust legal agreement she had thankfully put in place before their wedding. The presiding judge dismissed his outrageous financial demands, leaving him with a tiny fraction of what he had so arrogantly expected. She emerged from this deeply draining chapter with her head held high, proving that her strength extended far beyond her iconic on-screen persona. He, on the other hand, became a mere footnote in the incredible story of a true survivor. Wendy Richard. For millions of devoted television viewers, this remarkably talented woman represented the very heart of the working-class British spirit. She spent the 1970s and 1980s bringing familiar comfort to audiences through legendary serial dramas and comedies. However, her extraordinary professional triumphs were shadowed by an agonizing search for genuine affection. At the beginning of the 1980s, she desperately hoped she had finally found a faithful companion, marrying a man who promised her absolute devotion and a safe traditional home. Sadly, the charming facade he presented during their brief courtship evaporated almost immediately after their wedding rings were exchanged. Although he initially boasted about his own professional endeavors, it quickly became undeniable that he vastly preferred spending her hard-earned television salary. He effortlessly slipped into a life of complete leisure, abandoning any pretense of providing for their household. He eagerly embraced the luxurious lifestyle and immense social privileges that came attached to her celebrity status, contributing absolutely nothing. His financial parasitism was deeply intertwined with a shocking campaign of relentless emotional degradation. He harbored a venomous resentment towards her overwhelming public popularity. To soothe his own crippling insecurities and pathetic lack of achievement, he made it his daily mission to systematically destroy her fragile self-esteem. Behind the heavy curtains of their home, the beloved national treasure was subjected to constant cruel mockery regarding her appearance, her background, and the very acting career that put expensive food on his plate. He forcefully isolated her from a wide circle of protective friends, ensuring she remained completely trapped within his toxic sphere of influence. While she worked endless hours on freezing television sets to maintain their expensive standard of living, he squandered her savings on his own selfish indulgences. Whenever she dared to question his outrageous financial demands, he would unleash terrifying episodes of rage, deliberately creating an atmosphere of sheer terror and absolute compliance within the very walls that should have been her sanctuary. The burden of supporting this viciously ungrateful partner took a visible toll on her physical health and emotional well-being. He accumulated massive, humiliating debts in his own name, fully expecting the famous actress to sweep in and clear his financial messes. Finding the incredible inner strength to finally expel this monstrous leech from her life took nearly 4 years of silent suffering. When she demanded a permanent separation, he threw spectacular tantrums, demanding even more of her money as a parting gift before signing the legal documents. Ultimately, she walked away financially bruised but spiritually liberated, forcing him to leave her property once and for all. She bravely rebuilt her fortune and cemented her legacy as an absolute television icon, proving that his malicious attempts to destroy her were utterly futile. He disappeared into the absolute irrelevance he truly deserved, stripped of the glamour and wealth he had so desperately craved. She remained a beloved national treasure, never allowing his pathetic memory to overshadow her magnificent, hard-won professional achievements. Barbara Windsor, known for her infectious giggle and bubbly persona, this legendary blonde bombshell was the absolute darling of British comedy throughout the 1960s and 1970s. She brought endless joy to cinema audiences, yet her private reality was anchored to a man who brought nothing but chaos and profound despair. She married a charming rogue in 1964, believing his streetwise swagger was a sign of protective strength. She could not have been more terribly mistaken. While she spent exhausting days on freezing film sets, wearing tiny costumes to make the nation laugh, her new husband was busy cultivating a terrifying reputation in the London underworld. He happily used her dazzling celebrity status as a glamorous shield for his highly questionable associates and dangerous activities. He contributed absolutely nothing to their household income, preferring to spend her hard-earned acting fees on expensive suits, flashy cars, and keeping up his tough image. The emotional toll of being tied to such a volatile character was immense. She lived in constant fear of what might happen next, jumping at every loud knock on their front door. Despite her growing anxiety, he demanded absolute loyalty and actively discouraged her from asking questions about where he went at night. He played immense mind games, making her feel completely responsible for keeping their fractured lives together while he blatantly risked everything she had worked so hard to build. As her cinematic career began to naturally slow down, the financial pressure became absolutely suffocating. Whenever his shadowy business dealings went wrong, he expected his famous wife to effortlessly foot the enormous legal bills. She found herself working in endless summer seasons and provincial pantomimes simply to keep them out of bankruptcy. He showed absolutely no gratitude for her relentless sacrifices, treating her vast fortune as his own personal emergency fund to drain at will. The ultimate betrayal arrived in the middle of the 1980s when his criminal activities escalated to an unprecedented level. Following a massive and highly publicized robbery, he cowardly fled the country to hide in sunny Spain. He left his devoted wife completely alone to face the aggressive police interrogations, the ruthless tabloid press, and a mountain of absolutely staggering debts. She was forced to sell her beloved home just to survive the catastrophic mess he left behind. Rising from the ashes of that disastrous marriage took unimaginable courage. She officially ended their union in 1985, vowing never to let another man exploit her good nature. Stripped of her wealth but not her spirit, she reinvented herself and eventually secured a monumental role in a legendary television drama, becoming a national matriarch. Her cowardly former husband eventually faced justice, while she rightfully reclaimed her glittering crown as a true British icon. Pat Phoenix, a commanding presence who defined the very essence of northern British grit, this fiery redhead was undisputed television royalty. Throughout the 1960s and 1970s, she commanded the highest salary in serial drama history, Yet her sharp-tongued and incredibly powerful on-screen persona masked a desperate vulnerability when it came to matters of the heart. She simply craved the traditional family stability that her demanding career had always made so difficult to achieve. She fell passionately for a fellow cast member at the dawn of the 1970s, leading to a highly publicized wedding. At first, they seemed like the ultimate television power couple, sharing both the small screen and a lavish real-life romance. However, the glittering surface quickly tarnished when his severe dependence on strong beverages began to overshadow his fading acting career. As his professional reliability plummeted, he increasingly relied on her immense star power to survive. Instead of confronting his devastating personal demons, he comfortably settled into the role of a completely financially dependent spouse. He would spend his days lounging in their luxurious shared home or holding court in expensive local establishments, entirely funded by her relentless work schedule. Her immense generosity was repeatedly met with sheer entitlement. He accumulated staggering personal debts, fully expecting his famous wife to quietly settle the terrifying bills every single time. The emotional manipulation behind closed doors was just as draining as the catastrophic financial losses. When heavily under the influence, he would lash out with cruel, cutting remarks, deliberately attempting to break her legendary self-confidence. She would arrive on the television set utterly exhausted, masking her profound private sorrow behind heavy makeup and a professional smile. She was desperately trying to save a man who was absolutely determined to drag her down into his own abyss. Despite her famously fierce public image, she spent years making endless excuses for his increasingly erratic and embarrassing public behavior. She paid for elite recovery facilities and covered his humiliating professional mistakes, pouring thousands of pounds into a completely bottomless pit. He treated her not as a beloved romantic partner, but as an endless source of free income. The magnificent actress was slowly fading under the crushing weight of his highly toxic and reckless lifestyle. This tragic and draining chapter finally concluded at the end of the 1970s, when his destructive habits ultimately claimed his health. Even in his final days, she remained loyally by his side, only to be left with a colossal mountain of his financial messes to clear up after his passing. It took immense fortitude to rebuild her shattered finances and restore her inner peace. She magnificently proved that her iconic strength was not just an act, securing her legendary status forever. Diana Dors, often celebrated as the definitive British answer to the greatest blonde bombshells of Hollywood, this breathtakingly beautiful cinema icon possessed a heart that was tragically far too trusting. Throughout the 1950s and 1960s, she commanded immense wealth and unparalleled international adoration. Yet despite her phenomenal global success, she repeatedly fell into the devastating trap of choosing deeply flawed partners who sought only to exploit her generous nature. In 1968, she crossed paths with a significantly younger and exceptionally volatile fellow actor. He possessed a dangerous edge that initially seemed thrilling, but the harsh reality of his dark temperament quickly shattered their romantic honeymoon phase. While her legendary name guaranteed her a steady stream of lucrative television and film appearances, his own career was severely hindered by his aggressive behavior and a profound fondness for strong, intoxicating beverages. Instead of working diligently to build his own professional reputation, he comfortably relied on her massive fortune to fund his incredibly reckless lifestyle. He frequently found himself involved in very public brawls and unsavory altercations, heavily relying on his famous wife to sweep in and pay his expensive legal fees. Whenever he faced serious consequences for his violent outbursts, she was the one forced to endure the absolute humiliation of begging magistrates for leniency on his behalf. The financial burden of constantly bailing him out of trouble was utterly exhausting, yet the emotional toll was even more severe. Behind the locked doors of their lavish estate, his deep-seated insecurities about being completely overshadowed by her monumental fame manifested in terrible ways. He would launch into terrifying, unpredictable rages, creating an atmosphere of constant, suffocating fear. She spent her days walking on eggshells, desperately trying to pacify a completely erratic man. He contributed practically nothing to their shared finances, treating her impressive bank accounts as his own personal playground. While she worked tirelessly on exhausting cabaret tours and television sets to keep their heads above water, he squandered vast sums of her money on foolish investments and terrible personal habits. Even when his highly destructive choices landed him behind bars for several months, she loyally waited for him, completely blinding herself to the toxic reality of their bond. Tragically, this utterly draining dynamic persisted for over a decade, slowly diminishing the radiant energy of a true cinematic legend. She poured her entire soul and vast financial resources into saving a man who was absolutely determined to self-destruct. When she sadly passed away in the middle of the 1980s, she left behind a deeply diminished fortune, much of it squandered by his endless, reckless demands. Her monumental legacy deserved far better than the chaotic shadow he cast. Kate O'Mara, known for her piercing eyes and magnificently wicked on-screen characters, this striking brunette dominated the television schedules throughout the 1980s. She was the absolute epitome of sharp, sophisticated glamour, frequently playing wealthy and powerful matriarchs in massive international dramas. However, her off-screen reality starkly contrasted with her formidable television persona. Behind closed doors, she was a deeply romantic soul who simply longed for genuine companionship. In the early 1990s, she fell desperately in love with a significantly younger and entirely unknown fellow actor. Despite the considerable age gap between them, she genuinely believed his passionate declarations of eternal devotion. They officially exchanged their wedding vows in 1993, but the romantic fairy tale evaporated almost instantly. It quickly became devastatingly apparent that her new groom was far more enamored with her impressive bank balance than her heart. Instead of diligently building his own independent acting career, he happily assumed the role of her pampered companion. He contributed absolutely nothing to their joint finances, fully expecting his famous and incredibly wealthy wife to fund every single aspect of their daily existence. From luxurious holidays to lavish dinners at the absolute finest restaurants, he devoured her hard-earned money with astonishing entitlement. He simply paraded around, using her legendary name to secure privileges. The psychological manipulation behind the scenes was carefully orchestrated and utterly ruthless. To cleverly distract from his own pathetic lack of professional success, he constantly sought to diminish her monumental achievements. He would make snide, deeply hurtful comments about her advancing years and her evolving television roles. He deliberately preyed on the natural insecurities of a mature performer, hoping to make her feel entirely dependent on his supposed youthful and loving presence. This relentless emotional drain and immense financial strain severely impacted her overall well-being. She found herself undertaking incredibly demanding and exhausting theatrical tours just to maintain the extravagant standard of living he now forcefully demanded. While she traveled tirelessly across the country, performing to packed audiences, he remained comfortably at home. He enjoyed all the sweet fruits of her exhausting labor without showing even a single shred of genuine gratitude or care. After 3 years of quiet misery and extremely significant financial losses, she finally summoned the remarkable inner strength to banish him from her life forever. She initiated a permanent legal separation in 1996, decisively cutting off his easy access to her wealth and her hard-earned celebrity status. Though the humiliating experience left her financially depleted, she proudly reclaimed her total independence and stepped back into the theatrical spotlight where she belonged. Jane Seymour. Stepping away from the traditional grimness of domestic dramas, this stunning English rose first captivated audiences as a legendary secret agent's cinematic companion in the 1970s. With her ethereal beauty and undeniable talent, she transitioned into a wildly successful leading lady of sweeping 1980s television epics. Believing she had found the perfect partner to manage both her heart and her booming career, she married a charismatic business manager at the start of the decade. Instead of protecting her hard-earned wealth, her new husband saw her phenomenal international success as an endless personal credit facility. Under the guise of sophisticated financial management, he firmly took total control of every single penny she earned. While she spent exhausting months filming historical dramas in remote locations across the globe, he was busy playing a high-stakes game with her immense personal fortune. He contributed nothing of his own, simply gambling with her endless work. The utter betrayal ran far deeper than simple incompetence or foolish mistakes. While she was entirely focused on delivering award-winning performances and building a comfortable future for their family, he was secretly funneling her massive earnings into disastrously speculative property investments. He completely isolated her from any objective financial advice, insisting that she should just focus on looking beautiful for the cameras while he handled the complicated matters behind the scenes. The devastating truth finally came crashing down upon her in the early 1990s. She discovered, to her absolute horror, that the man she trusted implicitly had not only squandered her entire life savings, but had also plunged her into a catastrophic mountain of debt. She was facing the terrifying prospect of complete bankruptcy, owing millions upon millions of pounds to furious creditors. Meanwhile, the man responsible for this staggering financial apocalypse offered no practical solutions. To compound this monumental financial devastation, she also uncovered deeply painful revelations about his profound lack of marital loyalty. He had been living a lavish, highly deceitful double life, entirely funded by the very woman he was busy destroying behind closed doors. The immense stress of facing sudden poverty, coupled with the heartbreaking destruction of her romantic ideals, pushed this incredibly resilient actress to the absolute brink of emotional exhaustion and profound private sorrow. With ruthless banking institutions threatening to seize her beloved family home, she boldly filed for a permanent separation. Desperate to survive, she bravely accepted the very first television script that landed on her desk. This vital act of financial salvation miraculously resulted in her starring in a monumental historical family drama that redefined her legacy. She painstakingly paid off his disgraceful debts, rebuilding a massive empire while her former husband faded into absolute insignificance. Linda Bellingham. Known universally as the ultimate television matriarch, this beloved actress brought incredible warmth and comfort to millions of British households throughout the 1980s. She became a national treasure by portraying the perfect smiling mother in iconic television campaigns and gentle family dramas. However, the wholesome domestic bliss she so perfectly depicted on screen was a tragic illusion. In 1981, she entered a marriage that would quickly become a profound nightmare. She was charmed by a man who presented himself as a sophisticated romantic, but his charming facade vanished rapidly after they exchanged their vows. Rather than providing a safe haven, he immediately began to assert total dominance over every aspect of her existence. He showed absolutely zero interest in building his own independent career, preferring instead to latch onto her soaring fame. He expected his deeply hard-working wife to completely fund his expensive tastes and luxurious demands. His financial parasitism was deeply interwoven with a calculated campaign of psychological subjugation. Aware that her public image relied entirely on remaining completely pristine, he weaponized this fear to keep her silently obedient. He deliberately shattered her self-esteem with constant venomous critiques regarding her appearance and her acting abilities. He systematically alienated her from trusted colleagues, ensuring she had absolutely nobody to turn to when his dark temper flared. The contrast between her professional triumphs and her private sorrow was absolutely devastating. While she stood under bright studio lights, radiating joy and effortless maternal grace, her mind was constantly consumed by the terrifying dread of returning to her own house. He aggressively demanded massive sums of her hard-earned money to fund his disastrous personal ventures, showing not a single ounce of gratitude. Her vast television wealth simply vanished into his bottomless pockets. She endured this highly toxic and draining existence for 15 long years, desperately trying to protect her children and her fragile public reputation. He lived like an absolute emperor on her immense salary, using intense emotional pressure to ensure she kept accepting exhausting television roles just to pay off his mounting personal debts. Whenever she dared to question his outrageous financial drain, he would unleash truly terrifying episodes of rage to maintain his absolute control. Summoning the unimaginable strength to finally expel this deeply destructive force from her life in 1996 proved to be an absolute turning point. The incredibly messy legal separation left her facing a mountain of his financial messes, but she flatly refused to be a victim any longer. She valiantly rebuilt her entire fortune and transitioned into a highly respected presenter and author. She bravely shared her painful journey, turning her absolute darkest years into a beacon of hope. Beverly Callard, commanding the television screens throughout the late 1980s and 1990s, this vibrant actress was a cornerstone of British serial drama. She portrayed famously tough, fiercely independent women who took absolutely no nonsense from anyone. However, the tragic irony of her immense national fame was that behind the heavy studio doors, she was locked in a deeply destructive marriage that steadily drained her vast wealth and completely crushed her spirit. In 1989, she walked down the aisle with a man she genuinely believed would be her ultimate protector and equal partner. Sadly, he quickly proved to be a master of cruel deception. As her television profile skyrocketed, commanding incredibly lucrative contracts and nationwide adoration, his own professional ambitions mysteriously vanished. He effortlessly settled into the highly comfortable position of a fully dependent spouse, perfectly content to live entirely off her fame. Instead of managing their joint finances with any sense of care or respect, he treated her exhausting television schedule as a bottomless cash machine for his own desires. He embarked on a series of disastrously foolish business ventures, pouring hundreds of thousands of pounds of her hard-earned money into absolute black holes. He contributed absolutely zero to their shared household income, fully expecting his famous wife to silently cover his staggering losses without a single complaint. The devastating financial exploitation was cleverly masked by a ruthless campaign of emotional suppression. To ensure she never questioned his continuous drain on her banking accounts, he systematically preyed upon her deepest personal insecurities. He would offer harsh, entirely unsolicited criticisms about her physical appearance and her acting performances, desperately trying to convince this beautiful, universally loved television icon that she was nothing without his supposed guidance. While she was suffering from severe clinical exhaustion, working relentlessly long hours on the freezing television sets just to pay off the massive debts he kept secretly accumulating, he was busy engaging in deeply humiliating infidelities. He practically flaunted his absolute lack of marital loyalty, betraying her trust in the most painful ways imaginable. He showed a terrifying lack of empathy for the incredible woman who was single-handedly keeping their lavish lifestyle afloat. The ultimate breaking point finally arrived in the middle of the 1990s, when the terrifying scale of his financial ruin could no longer be hidden from the banks. She woke up to the horrific realization that his reckless spending and terrible business choices had pushed them to the very brink of complete bankruptcy. The man who had promised to cherish her had effectively stolen her entire life savings, leaving her to face the aggressive debt collectors entirely by herself. Mustering the immense courage to officially end this highly toxic union, she finally forced him out of her life. She was left financially utterly decimated, having to work harder than ever just to rebuild the fortune he had so selfishly squandered. Yet she proudly reclaimed her absolute independence, ultimately proving that her incredible strength was genuine. She survived the absolute worst he could inflict, securing her place as a beloved survivor while he faded into utter obscurity.